don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't.
Hey team, hope you're all doing well. I wanted to go over how long does it take people to build up to a marathon, and I think this is a really important topic because I think there is a point of diminished returns when it comes to being an athlete and you're training for these longer races, especially the marathon distance. We spend so much of our time and emphasis building up mileage, doing tempo runs, doing track workouts, that it's sometimes difficult to time your buildup perfectly. Okay, like I think that once you get to a point where you're doing tempo runs at an extremely fast pace, and you're having some very good workouts to the point where you know that you're reaching that level that you're probably not going to be able to maintain that much longer. I think that's a good indicator that it's time for you to at least consider adjusting the race time frame that you had in mind. So say you have a marathon in mind that's 2 months away. If you're doing a phenomenal tempo run, just extremely fast, or you're hitting splits on the track that are much faster than you think that you were originally capable of doing them in, I think that it's a good indicator, those workouts and your overall fitness, to maybe bump up the race date, or maybe try to find another marathon that's maybe closer to you, or that's that's going to be taking place at a date that's a few weeks earlier than you had planned. And I know that's difficult. I know that's tough to do because, looking back for me personally in this last build-up that I had, and I have really overall my own focus now is just to maintain fitness and just to enjoy being healthy and getting out and doing walks with my wife and doing runs. But when I did that 5450 10-mile time trial in late September, I really should have done my marathon probably about 2 weeks after doing that, instead of waiting until late December or early December to run the marathon. That was my indicator. So I think, how long does it take people to build up to a marathon? I think it's going to vary from athlete to athlete, of course. I think if you spend more time away from the sport, like in my case was 11 years, it's much more difficult to time that. I think you need some time, several months, I think even up to about a year or more, to get to a point where you can get back to that type of fitness that you had. But I think in most cases, 5 months to 6 months is optimal. Okay, 16 weeks is still you're definitely gonna set yourself up for success with a 4-month block. But when you're training for the marathon, between 20 to 24 weeks is optimal time frame for that. I don't think that you really need to train any further than that, because again, there's a point where you can only continue to run fast, continue to push the body over and over again, and expect yourself to really perform. I think that there is a point where you start to get still, you start to slow down, and so again, I think going further than 6 months really it's some athletes can do it. And overall, even and all throughout my marathoning career, from 2002 when I debuted up until 2013 when I ran my last marathon and finished my last marathon, I always focused my best build-ups were between 5 and 6 months. I never did a full year build-up, and if you're going to do that, make sure that you have some breaks in between there, like every 6 months, maybe give yourself a week off. You're not going to lose any fitness with a week off. So I don't think training straight through a 12-month block of training, preparing for a race, I don't think you need that much time. And again, it's going to vary depending on the athlete, but also on how much time away you've spent from the sport. If you spent a long time away, I still think 5 to 6 months is optimal. It's just the fact that you have to notice in training, where in my buildup was I the most fit? And then if you had, and then look at what you had planned in terms of the race date. say you did a 8 1-mile repetitions on the track or 8 1-mile repetitions on the road, and your goal was to hit 5 minutes per mile on the road, and you were hitting like 440s, and then look and see how far away from that particular workout you did your goal marathon. And if you didn't perform at the level that you wanted in that marathon, maybe consider like looking at that in your training and say, man, maybe I should have went for a marathon just a couple weeks after doing that particular workout instead of branching my training out even further along. And again, the marathon is a mystery. I mean, there's times where you're going to be on, and there's times where you're going to be off. You can sometimes do everything perfect in training, and it goes right, and everything works out, and you get in that flow state, and where you just feel like you're effortlessly running at race pace and even faster than race pace. And then there's other days where you feel absolutely awful. You're like 10 miles into the race, and you're really struggling. That's not a good feeling, and I have been in that position several times, even during my prime. And so I think really when you're doing your build-up, just be mindful of your overall workouts. Keep a log. Make sure that you're writing down what you're doing, and make sure that, that's something I regret. I wish I would have kept my logs from when I first started running when I was in high school, all the way up to when I retired out of the sport in 2013. I wish I would have kept my logs, knowing exactly what I was doing, especially, looking back to when I ran in the Cherry Blossom 10 miler. I ran 51:29 in that race. I wish I knew the workouts I was doing going into that. Going back, thinking about it, I remember some of the workouts I was doing, but and prior to breaking 219, I would have loved to have known what the workouts I was doing every single week going into that 5-month block of training that I did. The only thing I remember bits and pieces, some 6 1-mile reps on the track, and some tempo runs and some long run paces I was running at altitude, but I don't have it all written down. So make sure that you're doing that. Keep a log and keep track of what you're doing in training so that you can look back and you can adjust the things that you were doing. I look back at the 2011 Monumental Indianapolis Marathon. I did a 20-mile run 6 weeks out from that race in 1 hour and 50 minutes and 2 seconds. I averaged 5:30 per mile in training for those 20 miles. But when I did that, the marathon itself was 6 weeks out. There was still 6 weeks of training. What I wish I would have done was found a marathon that was maybe 2 weeks, out from after that workout, because I was the fittest when I did that. And I ended up finishing 5th in 2:26:42, my second fastest marathon in Indy. But I think too, again, looking back, I wish I would have found a marathon that was closer to that particular workout when I was at my fittest, rather than training for several more weeks, preparing for that race. And yes, I was very, very fit going into that, but and I had to stop in a porta-john while I was running with the leaders too. So I lost about probably 2 to 3 minutes off that finish time. And I think that as you're going through your training, make sure that you're monitoring how you're feeling. You're writing down your workouts. You're like I mentioned, keeping a log, making sure that you're keeping track of what you're doing, so that later on in life you can look back and be able to open up that notebook and figure out, okay, this is what I was doing. This is what I was doing. And what went right and what went wrong, and then making your adjustments. If you're still training, making those adjustments moving forward for your future races. So how long does it take people to build up to a marathon? In most cases, it usually takes anywhere from 3 months to 6 months. As I mentioned before, the best time frame is 5 to 6 months. Don't go much further than that. If you're going to go further than 6 months, if you're thinking more of like a 12-month block of training, make sure that you're giving yourself some breaks in between that, and don't train throughout that block. There's only certain cases where you need to really do that. In my case, I've been away from 11 years, so I really kind of needed a year of training just to get to a point where I could run at faster paces. At first it was very difficult to even run a 7-minute mile, or run even under 7 minutes for the mile per mile for like a longer run. So it took time to get to the point where I could hold 10 miles at 5:29 pace again, at 54:50. So be patient with yourself. Know that great results are going to occur in the sport. It's about just consistent action over a long period of time, but make sure that you're enjoying it and you're not getting so stressed out and not doing too long of a buildup, okay? Minimum 16 weeks, preferably 20 to 24 weeks is your best bet to succeed in the marathon distance. So thanks so much for your support. Thanks for leaving comments. Let me know in the comment section too if what has been the perfect time frame for you in the marathon. Has it been 3 months? Has it been 8 weeks? Has it been more so like 16 to 24 weeks like I mentioned? So I'd love to hear that from all of you as well. So thanks again. Check out RunDreamAchieve.com for the resources there that'll help you in your training and racing, and I'll talk to you on the next video.